5:30, so we'll call to order this meeting for Monday, May 15th. Jordan, would you start us off with the roll call, please?
Please respond by stating present. Councilmember Ronayne.
Present.
Holberg.
Present.
Liebelt.
Present.
Reif.
Present.
Johnson.
Present.
Reinbold.
Present.
Langer.
Present.
Norvstrup.
Present.
Mayor Schoeneman.
Present. Please stand with me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I have a minor modification to this week's agenda. I have a proclamation declaring Mary Campton Day, who will be retiring here before too terribly long, so I want to be sure to recognize her. So I would take a motion to approve this agenda with the addition in our consent calendar of a Mary Campton proclamation.
So moved. Second.
Got a motion from Councilwoman Liebelt and a second from Councilwoman Langer. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion does carry. Next, we've got our approval of minutes for the meeting previously held on May 1st of 2023. Can I get a motion to approve those minutes?
Move to approve.
Second.
Got a motion from Councilman Reinbold and a second from Councilman Reif. If any changes or anything from the council on these minutes? All right, then all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And opposed, nay. Motion carries. We do have a signed-up speaker for our open forum here today. So Mr. Bob Braun from our water plant will be saying a few things. This isn't really an opportunity for us to respond. It's just an opportunity to kind of gather information and from citizens. So that is what we'll be doing here today. But Bob, is your little green light on? You know how to use that thing, I'm
Yep.
100% sure. So the floor is yours.
As you know, I'm Bob Brown. I've been with the city for 13 years now. Working at that water treatment plant, being on call 24/7, answering anything it takes to make that place run. I've been a superintendent since 2017. And I'm coming here today because this is the only way I see I can defend myself and let you know just how this plant is ready to fail because we've been short-staffed and manipulated by Joe for a considerable number of years. I have seen how the terrible things Joe says about former staff members and current staff members, proud that he can chew their ass out for them doing their best to help out the city for certain things. I've seen plenty of good employees leave the city. Some just say the hell with it, I'm going to retire. And there's several I know at the city that are just waiting out their retirement years and hoping that he's gone first. In November 2020, I had an employee leave and to take a different position. And in that time, he gave a very unhappy, he was disgruntled, and he gave that very bad review. Come the next spring, Joe took that review, having never met the man, and just totally derided his character and ability at the plant. We have been short-staffed. He is down to one maintenance member and a superintendent many times. We've had unqualified staff. I haven't had any real authority over my employees since May of 2021. That is when I brought to the city's attention of an employee faking the lab work. I was not allowed to fire that employee. I was not allowed to set up a system to further catch him on video, other than the few records we've had. Guess what? He's still faking it to this day. Another employee wanted to leave or had anger issues. I did exactly what I was told to do, writing him up and gave him a chance how to get the help he needs so he can still become a valuable player or employee with the city. He denied it, and let's just say, before I get into too much details. But between those two events, the other employees have quickly learned that I can't do anything. You know, so I sit there and I've been working, trying to my best to control them. They're goofing around. Joe's got records. They openly admit to what they've been doing. So because they know I can't do anything about it. Budget-wise, he's oftentimes delayed agenda items. I remember being asked, why is this suddenly so much higher than the engineering's bid or estimate? It's because it was delayed a month, because for no other reason than he seemed to want to. So, last Monday's gearbox, I was barely able to get it on the agenda, having had last-minute meetings with him for pointless, no reasons based on the emails. That would have cost you an extra 5% tonight. A year ago, I wanted to get a master's degree. Joe told me I could not go get it. He said I'm too busy. So even though it was an online degree, working at night, on my own time, I did it anyways. I now graduated with my master's in water cycles engineering. Again, last May, I was informed him that I'm going to have a second surgery. I was told I could not have that surgery until the fall. So I suffered through the summer with restrictions, waiting until I could finally have that surgery to get relief. Joe has decided that Rob Jackson is not needed at the plant. Rob's been the quality control tech since...
Mr. Mayor, I want to interrupt here. This is not an opportunity to discuss in detail individuals
Very well.
with personnel issues.
Well, let me put it this way. This is my notice. I don't care anymore. I'm not allowed to do anything at the plant. I've been demoted to quality control tech. And why should I care anymore to guarantee that plant? The current staff, you've got one fake in the lab work. You've got incompetence in maintenance. We've hired maintenance head, retired in February. We've been waiting since January for his replacement to move to town. So Tiffany's father does seem quite qualified for the job as maintenance head, but that's who's Joe hired. So that's all I have to say. Consider this my notice. You've got less than 2 weeks with me.
Bob, thanks for coming in tonight. Sorry to hear about these things. I'll definitely reach out to you and we'll have a bit of a conversation and offline, but I appreciate you coming in here tonight and airing those grievances. Have a good night. Move along to our consent calendar where we've got 7 items of routine city business, including a proclamation that we've recently added, the Mary Campton Day. I'll go ahead and read that once we've approved this consent calendar, if that's all right. I'd take a motion to approve the calendar as printed with the addition of Mary Campton Day.
Move to approve.
Second.
Got a motion from Councilman Rife and a second from Councilman Norvstrup. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion does carry. So I'm hereby declaring City of Aberdeen, South Dakota, whereas the City of Aberdeen has been privileged to have an exceptional employee named Mary Campton as a dedicated member of our city staff for over 40 years, and whereas Mary Campton has demonstrated unwavering commitment and loyalty to the City of Aberdeen, serving with distinction and excellence throughout her career, and whereas Mary Campton has been a valued and respected member of the city staff, earning the trust and admiration of her colleagues, elected officials, and the community, and whereas Mary Campton has made significant contributions to the City of Aberdeen, providing dedicated service and leadership in her role as compliance and records specialist. Therefore, be it resolved that the City of Aberdeen extends its heartfelt appreciation and gratitude to Mary Campton for her outstanding service and dedication to the city and its employees and its residents. And be it further resolved that the City of Aberdeen proclaims May 19th as Mary Campton Day in the City of Aberdeen in honor of her distinguished service to the City of Aberdeen. And be it further resolved that the City of Aberdeen encourages residents to join in recognizing Mary Campton's contributions to the city and wish her a joyful and fulfilling retirement, and that will take place on May 19th. So congratulations, Mary. I know you watch all of these meetings. Appreciate all of your efforts here in the city. So with that, we will move along to our old business, where we have the authorization to allocate funds for marketing and resident recruitment efforts. And Joe, am I correct in saying that the request for funds have been pulled from this agenda item?
That is correct.
All right. So yes. Oh, we did that before I read that. Mm-hmm.
I think it was David and I seconded it.
Okay. Mhm. Okay. So I made the joke earlier that I tuned into the one city council meeting that I've missed in 3 years, and here we're voting on graphic design, and so I thought I would take a moment in seeing that again on this agenda and spend a little bit of time with our city logo. And so I've provided each of you something that I hope can be voted to stand in place of the page that has been distributed in this document. So my thinking on this topic, of course, is the fact that the City of Aberdeen currently uses the A logo. I think that everyone expressed satisfaction in that to some degree, or others in the past, and we voted in the same. But I do think I agree with the effort in place here that it could be used more consistently and with a better logo lockup. So I've boiled it down to its simplest form so that we're not forced to vote on things like business card design and all that kind of thing. I think that those type of minutia within graphic design should probably be left to marketing people, and we as a city council can vote on a logo lockup that will allow us to change the colors to match the chamber's colors when necessary, and play nice with the existing logos that we've already got in place, so that we don't have to scrape logos off of vehicles, and we don't have to throw hats, shirts, and business cards in the garbage. It's a great example that I brought in from our Streetworks department. You can kind of see nice high-vis yellow, great usage of the icon lockup. That works really well. Here's a shirt that was just produced for me that has a dark blue usage. I think that all these things are nice, and I think that moving forward, we can be a little bit more consistent on the usage for sure, and I'm happy to provide these logo and icon files to anyone and everyone, and even offer guidance and or graphic design services for absolutely no money, so that it doesn't appear to be any sort of a conflict of interest in any way, shape, or form. And I know that Tiffany has also extended such an invitation, so we'll be happily take her up on that offer as well, and hopefully we can be a little bit more consistent moving forward, but also not have to throw away all of our legacy materials that we've got, and play nicer with the different civic organizations that do a great job representing the city through our marketing efforts. So I passed out 2 packets to you. One shows a letterhead that I inherited from city prior to my involvement, a logo that or a business card that I kind of crafted based on that layout. What Joe uses as a logo, what just is currently being used on CityWorks vehicles and so forth. I think all of those things could continue to be used and maybe phased out with some time and a little bit more consistency. So in the packet, the other pack that I handed you, I've given a logo lockup with an icon only, and only the A icon, which we could use to more consistently represent ourselves moving forward, but we'll also play nice with other color combinations as necessary, which was a concern that the various marketing entities brought to our table when we met with them last week. So I guess with that, I would take any kind of questions that anyone might have.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, ma'am.
can we get an update on what the meeting was last week? That'd be helpful from,
Oh, sure. Megan,
City
would you
manager?
care to
Or Megan?
appraise us on that?
I can just stay right here, Evan. Thank you. Yeah, so a couple weeks ago at City Council, we discussed that we would get all the entities together that were involved utilizing the Changing the Game logos and branding alongside the city as we were having this discussion before anything came to a final conclusion. And that was agreed upon. And so the following Monday, so a week after the City Council meeting, the Chamber, the CBB, the ADC, and the ADA and the city all met together and discussed the topics that were discussed at City Council, including the marketing that Mayor Shoneman just mentioned, how we can best align the Changing the Game branding alongside the city branding that has been utilized historically. And we came to a conclusion that we would rework things and make them come together and meet in the middle somewhere, I would say. And so we said we would come back to City Council today with something a little different that, again, the Chamber, for example, mentioned that they do not want to use the city seal. Totally understandable. They've obviously gone through their different marketing efforts and their different design efforts with Changing the Game, as have the other entities. And so we decided that as city government, we were going to keep our A in some way, shape, or form, but we all agreed that bringing them together to be a little bit more not so drastically different would be good. And so that's what we worked on. And we also decided that it would be good for us to meet at least quarterly as an entire group so that we could keep each other up to date on things that are going on in all of our different organizations and increase and better our communication amongst the entities. So we will be doing that.
Go ahead, Councilwoman.
Follow-up question. Who's gonna organize the quarterly meetings then? Is that gonna be you,
I
Megan?
am.
Great.
Yep.
And then, so you'll call those quarterly meetings and
Yep.
you'll be representing the city on that.
Correct.
Great. Thank you.
Sounds good. Thank you, Councilwoman. And it was your input that led us to all meet together, and I think it was very productive. And I guess it alleviated some of the concerns that that some of the people had, just not having much information, I guess, prior to that last meeting that I wasn't able to attend. Councilman?
Mayor, appreciate all the work that's been done by you and any others so that we have this to review tonight. So is it a correct understanding that on this page here that this is giving latitude for other parts of color palette that would include the black, green, orange, yellow, or high-vis yellow? I think that's essentially what we're doing, is just allowing that.
Displaying the versatility, I think.
Yep, and also displaying a cleaned graphic, an updated logo that just has the elements that have been cleaned.
That's right. And over the years, the logo usage had become a little bit inconsistent. Various printing partners and so forth, each utilizing their own versions and takes on what amounted to the original city seal,
Right.
and workarounds, and so it had become relatively inconsistently used. So I do think that there's a good merit in revisiting those things, doing a bit of an audit on what's being used, and then providing a graphic format that they'll be able to be more consistently used in the future, but also not sunsetting the designs that have been integrated into vehicles and shirts and that sort of a thing in the past.
I agree with all that.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilwoman.
respectfully, I think that the idea that we're sunsetting logos that are on things is not traditionally how anybody who goes through a rebrand looks at it. Obviously, as you change things, you have to replace things, but it doesn't mean it has to occur all at once. We can see currently, the Wayfinder signs still have the old A that was used 3 years ago, but it's expensive to change that. So it's about changing with a brand, and as you can do things, you do things. That's just branding 101. I would love to hear from the community partners, because they are here tonight on the meeting on Monday as well, and how it went. What's in the packet currently is the culmination of that meeting, from my understanding on Monday, because I was asked to do it based off of that meeting. So, full disclosure, obviously, I made the graphics that are in the packet, and then I'm assuming that, Mr. Mayor, you made some changes, and that's what this is. So I'd like to hear, so that the council's fully aware, when we're making this decision, what the community partners as well think, because that's the whole reason we put this off to the side. So
First
could
of
hear
all,
from
that's
them.
not the sequence of events, but I'd created these materials for Megan, who'd requested that help with those things so that we could give her some ammunition to be doing her job. And then with your input, I understand that some of these other designs were created, and I don't think that we should be voting on design particulars in this meeting. I don't think that that's the appropriate place for design conversations to be had, but if we are going to be voting on a logo lockup, I think that we should dial it back to its simplest form and something that we can all agree upon and fully represents the legacy of the existing logo. And I don't think that we should be voting on business card design, letterhead, email lockups. I provided that as a point of reference to show how it could be consistently used moving forward.
So for me to understand what you've presented here is us just voting on keeping the red instead of, and then allowing the city to just change the color whenever they want to whatever color they would like in order to.
The city's historically used blue and red as its logo color, so I was simply illustrating the versatility of implementing the chamber's color palette
Okay.
as needed on their signage and so forth. I don't think that we should vote on business cards and letterhead. I think we should be voting on an updated logo seal that represents what we currently use, but is more consistent to be used in the future. And things like the graphic design aspect of things, I think, belong in the hands of marketers and not community boards.
So can we hear from the chamber and the CVB?
Sure, if you've got a moment. Gail, how about you first? Gail attended the meeting. No, Gail was absent in the meeting.
Yeah,
How was your trip,
unfortunately, I was
Gail?
out of town at the meeting, but my board president was there, and Lisa Anderson from our office, who does handle most of the city marketing, was there. And I mean, I think it was a positive meeting. I think it was good for all of us to discuss everything we're working on. I did follow up with all of you on all of our workforce recruitment and retention efforts, so hopefully you've seen that in your email. Because we do want to partner with the city. I want to make that very clear. We are really just looking for consistency so that your color palette matches what has been developed. All of our organizations that were mentioned, have spent thousands of dollars developing that logo. Not that it was that much in the beginning, right? To get a brand done. It's the follow-ups, right? All of the advertising, letterhead, all of those materials that it takes years to put together. So the red and black is maybe a bit of a concern for us because it is so far from the color palette that we have. And, even looking at the screen tonight, the seal, the city seal is in a beautiful blue and gold, which is what we use as well in the Aberdeen logo. And those colors were chosen for a reason, right? For Roncalli, for Aberdeen Central, for the grass, the water of Aberdeen and South Dakota. Red maybe wasn't chosen because of other cities that were using that. Brookings, for example, those are really strong colors for them. So we really are just looking for that consistency so that when we're marketing, we can work together. So if Megan has information that she wants us to include in relocation packets, we don't see a red and white themed marketing piece in a blue and orange and yellow packet. Some of those colors just don't work well together. So I think to use our money in the best way, we just need to coordinate those colors and fonts. Understanding, though, that the city seal is important to the city. We recognize that historically, that you want to keep that. But I think there's a great way to incorporate all of that together.
Thank you, Gail.
Yep.
Casey, did you have some feedback from our meeting on Monday you'd like to share? Good evening. I'm a little taller than Gail.
Yeah, good evening. We were fortunate enough to be part of the meeting again to discuss the logos and the brands. The CVB is a little different entity in all of the associations put together. We're a little bit different. Our marketing message is geared towards those visitors, so our marketing message is going to be kind of unique in itself in general. But, we follow what the chamber does, what the city brand does. We also follow the city seal as well. But, we kind of utilize our reference to gearing our message towards those visitors. And I think, nothing negative came out of the meeting that we had with the city and Megan. I think that was great. I think looking forward to future meetings, quarterly will definitely help all the associations. But I'm curious of what I've nicknamed this one the strong A just because it's capital A and lowercase a, whatever. But in office, we call it the strong A. To see it in different color palettes, I think would work. I think it would work all the way around. Whether it's following the brand standard of what the chamber has put together, or if the city has of their own. I'm just curious of how we can entitle both of those logos to work together, I guess. I didn't really have a dog in the fight either way. I'm just here to help.
Thanks, Casey.
So.
God bless you.
Mr. Mayor?
Go ahead,
As a
Councilwoman.
geographer, I have a very important point to make, which is that you can see the map of South Dakota better in the updated logo, and I like that.
Well, thanks. That was half of the intent. But as you can see, the Streetworks Department actually, or Signs and Signals Department, had actually been working tirelessly to improve the position of the star on the map. So,
And Mr. Mayor,
go ahead, Councilwoman.
at the risk of being conflicting with my day job, A looks like USD and blue looks like SDSU. So I think we should rethink all of it.
Well, you can use it in whichever color palette you've imagined up, in fact, and that's why we had included the different options to show how nicely that it works with not only the chamber's color palettes, but if you'd like to make a maroon, for instance, it seems like it'd be a good fit.
Okay, last comment. Are we going to have a brand guide that says what colors the A can be in? Because it's kind of bizarre to me that the A can be any color. Like we don't, I don't know. I guess Nike logos can be any color. Is that what we are? We're
I'm
Nike?
happy to spend more time at my own expense on this project. I'd love to. It's a passion project of mine. I'd be happy to visit with you if you think that there's colors that should be off the palette. The one thing I didn't want to have happen was to be voting on business card designs, letterhead designs, things like that we're striving towards maybe updating some consistencies moving forward. And I think that maybe that's a conversation with the marketers moving forward. And I think that there's a lot of green pasture ahead of us in that. But I think if we settle on, here's a logo lockup that is properly kerned, it has nice design sensibility, it matches what we've done in the past, doesn't make anything obsolete, and is versatile enough to satisfy the chamber's need for matching their logo lockup in certain circumstances, printed materials, brochures, banners, and so forth that they've mentioned. I think that we've kind of solved out as much as a city council could be expected to solve.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilwoman.
you keep talking about marketers making these calls on letterheads, business cards. Who exactly is making the call on this then?
Well, so far it's been Joe. So marketer Joe over here is kind of client number one, but Megan has been our, it's kind of taken on the, Megan, who is a marketer, work within the city, has kind of been taking spearhead on some of these updated materials as a necessity for the material that she's producing to reach out to the businesses that she's attempting to recruit. So I don't know if it needs to get any further defined than that.
Yes.
Councilwoman.
The only other thing I'd say is that on the up and up, it just would have been nice to have transparency from the beginning of who designed the original, who designed the one that's in our packet, and you told us that you designed this one today. I think Megan actually has a degree in marketing as well, not design. Okay, so there's a lot of cooks
I would
in
like
the kitchen,
to
and it just seems like
speak
it'd
to the
be
transparency issue
nice
because
to know what's going on.
I'd like Megan to have the tools that she needs to do the recruiting that she needs to do. She'd come to me with the concern that she didn't have all those things in hand. So I said, I'll tirelessly work to help you shoot a video that you can use to market yourself at no cost to anybody except myself, as well as I'll touch up some of these designs so that you'll have professional material to put forward. And we did some exploration with some of the marketing materials that she had come up with that I thought turned out pretty nice, but ultimately will not be the way that we're going to go with that, but I'm standing at the ready for, to make sure that her position is as successful as she can be with any resources that I can put towards the effort on my own personal dime.
Thanks.
You're welcome. Go ahead, Megan?
Yeah, I would just like to say one more thing of just, I want to get back to what was discussed a couple of weeks ago at City Council, in that I think the major concern that we heard was the lack of communication, the lack of transparency, and I absolutely take responsibility for the lack of communication that was had. And so I think we solved part of that issue and are going to continue to solve that by working with the other entities and meeting quarterly. I do agree that I get a little nervous getting into so much of the minutia of the design. I'm not saying it's not relevant. It's absolutely relevant because it affects all the other entities and the marketing that we do and how we market our city. However, I do think that the bigger concern that was definitely brought up was that we needed more and better communication, and I firmly believe that, and I think that we can continue to do that. An email that is drafted in my email right now is going out to all the entities that were in that meeting, setting up another meeting for July 10th. And we are hoping to also individually meet with myself and these other entities on a one-on-one basis more often, or as often as they would like. So we're going to increase the communication, and hopefully we can continue to work through these things outside of this public forum so that they don't have to come here and hash all of this out here. Although I know that's part of the duty, but I think we are getting a little too in the minutia, but I'm new here. So
Thank you, Megan.
Yeah, I want to get back to the root of what was discussed a couple of weeks ago, and I think that issue that has been raised concern has been solved, I hope. And we're going to continue to solve it. Head nods from these entities back here.
So if it's all right, I would ask for a motion to adopt only the city logo and those uses that were the logo icon and iconic A, and then some of the further design discussion can be had at, on an ongoing basis as necessary, and get these things more consistently used moving forward, but not maybe by the city council.
Mayor, may I ask one other question for clarity? Just looking at, referring to our packet and what we're voting on to authorize updated design standards. So are we adopting as a default from this page the iconic A in red? Is that one thing that we're doing, or is that still for discussion, and there will be variants of it?
I mean, as far as I'm concerned, I believe that we should vote on the logo lockup and then allow usage to adopt other colors on an as needed basis, whether it's working with the chamber and so forth for their materials, or whether it's for apparel and so forth for the material that looks appropriate to be printed therein.
So, Mr. Mayor,
Yes, ma'am.
are we able to move for the original what's in the packet to be approved?
Sure.
That is what I would like to move.
Got a motion from Councilwoman Langer. Would anyone else like to approve the various logo materials that were included in our packet?
You are referencing these.
Yes.
Thank you.
A second? Not hearing a second, is there another action that the council would like to take?
Mr. Mayor,
Councilwoman?
can I make a motion that we adopt the updated logo, icon logo, and iconic A without the color decision of red being made?
Sure.
Because there's blue and there's green and there's other colors all around here.
Councilman?
I wanted to ask a question to Joe. Across the fleet of vehicles, across the various printed products that we have, marketing, would it be accurate to say that the red A is, if we're talking a two-color presentation, is that the most common currently?
That's what's on a lot of vehicles.
Right.
When it comes to letterhead, sometimes it has red A, sometimes it's a different color, sometimes it has no color. So we use it in a variety of ways.
Yes.
It's blue on your business card, right?
Yes, a lot of the business cards are blue. An interesting exercise when we passed this around the staff meeting the other day, there's 15 people in there, and all of a sudden, I think there were 4 or 5 that whipped out business cards, and not a one looked the same. So
That's, yeah, sorry, Mr. Mayor. I'm really just hoping to adopt this as our city logo, and then I would really like a brand guide that we're voting on with Pantones and an official color and optional colors and who has authority to say, yes, go forward and do that thing with our logo. It just seems like there's a bigger concern with the colors and the fonts, you know, all the things that are in a brand guide. It would be lovely to see. Because like the city of on this business card, there's no way that passes ADA. It's way too thin of a font. So there's a lot that goes into graphic design, as you two obviously know, that is far beyond just this A. And I don't want to leave all those graphic design decisions up to whoever we potentially hire through marketing, because we could hire anyone, right? And it seems like the city itself should have official fonts and official things. That's why I'm made a motion without a color right now.
Sure. That's it? All right, so we've got a motion and a second from Faubourg and Norvstrup to adopt the logo usage as printed, but without any concern for color, that being a matter to be decided at a later date.
May I
Go ahead,
inquire?
Councilman Ronayne.
Is the motion, do I understand the motion though is to the exclusion of red?
No, not the exclusion, just
Okay.
like without
Sorry.
an official color chosen. So just assuming it's all black and white right now until there's some brand guide that tells us what colors we're allowed to use and what fonts we're allowed to use.
And I'm sorry, they don't even let me pick out my own ties. I'm having a hard time following this. Is the motion to authorize what Councilwoman Faubourg refers to as the iconic A? Is that the same as the
These three.
updated design standards in the packet?
These three right here is what I'm motioning. Those three
Let the record reflect.
with the color, that she's pointing to these three things. With the color to be determined, and we can do it later, but I would like to put money out for an RFP for somebody to create a brand guide for us. But we won't do that today,
Thank you.
unless you really want me to.
Anyone else from the council before we take our vote? All right, Jordan?
Councilmember Ronayne,
Abstain.
Faubourg,
Aye.
Liebelt, Reif,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Reinbold,
Aye.
Langer,
Aye.
Norvstrup,
Aye.
Mayor Shoneman.
Aye, motion does carry. We will move along to our possible first reading of ordinance 230502, which adjusts the city fee schedule. Oh, excuse me, first order of new business, I nearly skipped one. We've got a recommendation to award a bid for recycling services to Dependable Sanitation. Robin?
We embarked on this journey a number of years ago, and this, I think, is the 3rd or 4th time we've gone through this contract. It's a similar contract as what we're proposing to what we've been doing. It is a relatively inexpensive methodology for going about recycling for those folks that really embrace it. For those that don't, and there are a number of people in the community that don't embrace it, it's a relatively inexpensive way to avoid recycling. But we are recommending at this point to move forward with Dependable's bid. They were the only bid. And it is within reason of where we would want to be for cost. It's actually less than what I expected to see in this particular case. So we are recommending moving forward with Dependable's bid. We have had a number of calls this year, primarily because of the weather. Things were difficult and we need to iron some things out with them. But at this point, I think we're comfortable with moving forward and would entertain any questions.
I mean, the bid is exclusive of the number of pickups. Is that true?
That is true.
So if everyone began to recycle, it'd be a heck of a lot bigger job than it currently
Yes,
is.
that's true.
What percentage, do you have any sense of the percentage of the current residents that
Roughly
probably?
50.
50?
Not everybody puts out every week, though. You have to remember that some people are going to do a set out of once a month, something like that, but their numbers are coming out at about 50% participation is what they're saying.
That's much higher than I would have expected driving around seeing the little blue containers around on the streets, but it's good to hear.
Mhm.
That is good to hear. We should be recycling. Does anyone else have any questions?
Move to approve the recommendation.
Second.
Got a motion from Renee, second from Rife. Any other questions from the council? All right then, Jordan, would you give us a roll call vote on that bid?
Councilmember Norvstrup,
Aye.
Langer,
Aye.
Reinbold,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Rife,
Aye.
Liebelt,
Aye.
Fauberg,
Aye.
Ronayne,
Aye.
Mayor Shonneman.
Aye, motion does carry. Next, we've got the possible first reading of an ordinance titled 230502, which adjusts the city's fee schedule for the 2023, setting certain fees and charges for the services provided by the city of Aberdeen. Jordan.
Thank you, Mayor. We adjust and set our fees by ordinance. We typically do it annually. Activities happened within this calendar year that has necessitated a mid-year increase. I think it's been several years since we've done that, but it's not uncommon. Of course, it's necessary due to the bid that was received for recycling services. Also, ordinances related to nuisance abatement, golf cart permits, and various services in public works that may have been overlooked or should have been adjusted due to market conditions.
Any questions about the particulars?
Move to approve.
Second.
Got a motion from Councilman Ronayne and a second from Councilman Reinbold. So the one big fee structure that was included is going to be for that nuisance abatement properties. Does everyone feel like that's an appropriate amount?
Mr. Mayor,
Go ahead,
I'd
Councilman.
like the annual increase hereafter to be like 10,000.
Yeah?
Mhm.
Get those homeless people out of here. Ah, I'm just
I don't
teasing.
think that's the goal,
I'm just teasing. All right. I would,
but otherwise we'll leave it as is. But we should see how it works for a little while first.
Jordan?
Councilmember Ronayne,
Aye.
Fauberg,
Aye.
Liebelt,
Aye.
Rife,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Reinbold,
Aye.
Langer,
Aye.
Norvstrup,
Aye.
Mayor Shonneman.
Aye, motion does carry. Next, we've got our possible first reading of an ordinance titled 230503, which supplements the 2023 budget for various Parks, Rec, and Forestry Department activities. Once again, Jordan, would you run us through those particulars?
Thank you, Mayor. This is a quarterly update that we do for Parks and Rec gift fund activities. The largest item here is a purchase related to a new ride at Storybook Land. We hold the funds within the campground Parks and Rec operating fund. We do the activity within the 508 Parks Fund. So this ordinance transfers the cash from what is Fund 614 to 508. We're also moving around $40,000 from Parks and Rec gift funds, which is Fund 210, to their operating Fund 208.
Move to approve.
Second.
I've got a motion from Councilman Reinbold, second from Councilman Johnson. Any questions for the Finance Director on those items? Go ahead, Councilman Ronayne.
Thank you, Mayor. Very, very briefly, Jordan, what is a recreation donation expense?
So that is something,
Or maybe that's a line item.
so they account for their donated expenses within that line item to allow them to track the activity that is outside of their operating budget. So that line item doesn't have budget, so that the activity needs to occur within their operating budget. The expense is here,
Okay.
so that we supplement that amount.
You're just moving money.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions from the council for Jordan? Jordan, would you give us a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Norvstrup,
Aye.
Langer,
Aye.
Reinbold,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Rife,
Aye.
Liebelt,
Aye.
Fauberg,
Aye.
Ronayne,
Aye.
Mayor Shonneman.
Aye, motion does carry. Next, we've got our public hearing and possible approval of a special one-day on-sale liquor license on May 25th for the Aberdeen Downtown Association Spring Wine Walk, which takes place in South Main, as well as a community event permit for that activity. we have a representative from the Downtown Association, but I don't think we'll probably need too much discussion on this unless someone is not willing to carry the measure.
Move to approve.
Second.
A motion from Councilman Rife and a second from Councilwoman Folberg. Does anybody have any questions? All right, then, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion does carry. Alexa, thanks for joining us. Next, we've got our possible approval for an application for renewal of a permit for cannabis dispensary to Dakota Herb, which is located at 3307 7th Avenue Southeast in suite number 110. And Ron, will you be telling us about that?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Dakota Herb has a permit renewal deadline of May 18th. They actually opened for business starting April 18th, and there's a requirement in the ordinance that they have been in active operation for 30 days. We have reviewed the application for the renewal. Everything looks in order. The only issue that we would ask that the council put on as a stipulation is that the permit be issued as of May 18th, when the planning and zoning director can confirm that there have been 30 full days of active operation. And I would then inform the council that after this, we don't anticipate that there will be any requirement that these be a separate item, these renewals, that they can be actually administratively approved by the planning and zoning director through the ordinance, and then they would just be placed on file. But we had to do this one to confirm the active operation issue. But staff would recommend approval with that stipulation for active use.
Move to approve.
Second.
Got a motion, Councilman Reinbold, second. Councilman Ronayne, any questions for the city manager about this application renewal? All right, then all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Next, we've got our possible approval of a surplus of service weapons for trade on a purchase of new weapons to Keesler's Police Supply. And here to tell us about that is our very own Chief McNeil. Chief, thanks for joining us tonight. What can you tell us about that surplus?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor and Council. So we have met our operational life with these service weapons that we currently possess, and we're asking you for your permission to allow us to surplus these weapons as trade back to the company that we're purchasing our new weapons from. That's a planned and budgeted expense.
Move to approve.
Second.
Got a motion, Councilman Johnson, and a second, Councilwoman Liebelt. Any questions for Chief on this transaction? All right, then Jordan, would you give us a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Norvstrup.
Aye.
Langer.
Aye.
Reinbold.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Rife.
Aye.
Liebelt.
Aye.
Folberg.
Aye.
Ronayne.
Aye.
Mayor Shoneman.
Aye, motion does carry. Next, we've got the recommendation to award bid for a mill and overlay improvement project to Jensen Rock and Sand, the amount of $308,693.41. Robin, what can you tell us about that project?
This is an annual project. We are happily to say below budget on this one. I think that's the first time you've heard me say that all year. So we are below budget, so that will help kind of right some of the things with some of our other projects. And it is also slightly below engineer's estimate, but this area will be up in that C.C. Lee area in North State this year. It's an area that is fairly rough, and we've seen some repairs to that area that have made it continually rougher every time we've gone through our patching and seal coating programs. So this will help correct some of those deficiencies. We recommend approval of the bid by Jensen Rock and Sand.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion from Councilman Johnson, second from Councilman Rife. Does anyone have any questions for city engineer on this one? I have noticed that road is riding particularly rough. It gets a heck of a lot of traffic up there. Jordan, would you give us a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Ronayne.
Aye.
Folberg.
Aye.
Liebelt.
Aye.
Rife.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Reinbold.
Aye.
Langer.
Aye.
Norvstrup.
Aye.
Mayor Shoneman.
Aye, motion does carry. Next, we've got the possible approval of a payment number 2 for 8th Avenue Northeast Pavement Rehab Project, which totals $548,293.28 to Reedy Construction. Robin.
It says in here that the diamond grinding is scheduled to be performed by May 13th. They actually started today on that. They were mobilizing equipment in, so they've done the concrete repairs and the dull bar retrofit. They are doing the grinding today and will likely finish that tomorrow. We will schedule our crews to go in and do the striping. After that, still hope to have it open by the end of the week. Recommending approval of the pay request.
Move to approve.
Second.
Got a motion, Councilman Reinbold, and a second, Councilwoman Liebelt. Any questions on this particular payment? Jordan?
Councilmember Norvstrup.
Aye.
Langer.
Aye.
Reinbold.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Reif.
Aye.
Liebelt.
Aye.
Fauberg.
Aye.
Ronayne.
Aye.
Mayor Shonneman.
Aye, motion does carry. Next, we've got possible approval of 2 payments for work on our airport projects. We've got a taxiway geometry, which totals $239.22. We've got apron reconstruction project, also to Helms for $25.50 and 32 cents. And finally, rehabilitation lighting improvement payment to Helms for $49.48 and 88 cents. And here to tell us about that is Transportation Manager Rich Krokel. Rich, welcome to the meeting.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll start with payment number 40, line 1. This is a project that probably should have been closed out a year and a half ago. I think I came to you last May about this. We had 47 panels that were cracked, and we're holding the contractor accountable for that. Over the course of this past winter, we discovered another 16 that are cracked. So this was a 100% fully funded $5 million project. And going through the airport board, city manager, and city attorney, this contractor is going to be held responsible for replacing this. He's currently $300,000 into his own pocket. But I just feel it's my responsibility to hold them accountable for what they're being paid to do. He's also been on liquidated damages, so he's about, I guess today he's probably about 55,000 into LDs. So I just wanted to kind of update you guys on the current project, or current status of that project. So the payment for $239 for administration and observation, we had Helms come out and actually shoot those 16 additional panels. So, and just for reference, these panels are 10 inches thick, 20 feet by 20 feet. So they're very large panels, a lot of concrete.
So you think it's a materials problem, or is it a workmanship problem?
Don't know. He's getting paid to do it, so he's gonna replace them.
Thank you, sir. How about the other 2 payments?
Okay, payment number 15, line 2. That is for general aviation apron reconstruction and admin and observation. And that is a 95% federal, 2.5% state, 2.5% city project. And then payment number 1, this was for bidding services on our runway 1331 rehabilitation and lighting improvements. And this is a bill project, BIL. So that's also 95, 2.5, 2.5. So we're recommending payment for all 3 of these line items.
I'll move to approve all 3 payments.
Second.
Got a motion, Councilman Johnson, a second, Councilman Ronayne. Any questions? All right, then. Jordan, would you give us a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Ronayne.
Aye.
Fauberg.
Aye.
Liebelt.
Aye.
Reif.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Reinbold.
Aye.
Langer.
Aye.
Norvstrup.
Aye.
Mayor Shonneman.
Aye, motion does carry. Next, we've got, thank you for joining us here tonight, Rich. Appreciate it. Next, we got the possible approval of a resolution 230501R, which creates a tax increment financing district, which we'll title number 39 in sequence of the previous TIFs, to develop a new happy subdivision in northern Aberdeen near 3314 Congress Street North. And here to tell us about that is City Manager Joe Guy. Joe.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. This is an extension of, we'll call it the North Happy. I say west, south, and north. So this is the new area that, amazingly enough, it was right about 3 years ago. I was here looking for houses. I'd been offered and accepted the position, And there were just a handful of houses being built in that subdivision, and I think this year the final lots will be constructed on. So it has filled up in a 3-year period of time, so this is to continue on the next extension, and city staff is pleased to support this and recommend approval.
Move to approve.
Second.
Got a motion from Councilman Reinbold and a second from Councilman Johnson, and nothing is different about this from the previous neighborhood TIF projects that we've been entirely on board with. Correct, Joe?
That is correct.
Mr. Mayor,
Go ahead, Councilwoman.
can I just ask a question? I don't know who the right person to answer it is, but how does it work with like the city trails and the speed limits and some of the things that we talked about farther south in this development as this development goes farther north? I mean, how's the planning working so that this whole development fits into the plan for the Parks and Rec and the trails and the roads and the city as a whole? I'm just wondering how it works.
The speed limit is a county thing because that's a county road, and we've been in contact with those guys, and they've been examining that, and I think that they might have even reduced the speed limit, if I'm not incorrect, or else they're considering it. As far as the trails and so forth, I think we've had this real similar conversation, but Robin, would you mind discussing where we're at with currently with the trail?
We have talked a few times with the county regarding the addition of trail up there, and the discussions are ongoing based on the fact that it is in county jurisdiction. There will need to be reconstruction of that road at some point, and how we go about doing that and the timing of that right now, I think it would be our desire just to continue to add to the trail to move further north with the existing asphalt trail, but we have not come to a resolution, I think, with the county on that, so we need to move forward with that and see if we can get that accomplished. But we do have a desire to do that, but ultimately that roadway will need to be reconstructed all the way from Fairgrounds Road going north to the end of the Happy subdivision and probably up to the next road to the north. Joe, I don't know if you got anything else you want to add?
No, I think that's fair. One of the things we're kind of looking at in our plan is what can we do to help with that, and I think you might see that in the next budget or two come up in our CIP.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilwoman Langer, what have you got?
I just had a quick question about parks. I live in a Happy subdivision in the Southeast District, and we don't have a park. And from my understanding, there is some type of ordinance, which I haven't gotten to the bottom of it exactly, that we as a city are supposed to be given land in each of these developments in order to have a park put in, whether it be immediately or in the future. Obviously, these homes are intended, to attract people of all types and people of all ages, and I do think that having parks in these developments are really important. As someone who has 2 kids who now love slides, it would be really nice to be able to walk to a park without crossing Mulgard. It's disappointing that there isn't a park there, and there's only 2 pieces of land in my entire subdivision to potentially put this, and I've actually been working on it for over a year now. So I'm just curious how that works with this new development and if there's land available, because I really, really think it's important to have parks, especially in that area, for kids. And I mean, and anybody who wants to go down a slide and swing on a swing.
There's a park slated for the existing subdivision that's filling out now.
Okay.
There's a park slated
In the
for
north,
that
you mean?
subdivision.
In the north?
Yeah.
Yes.
Correct. Yes, the plans for this subdivision do include parkland, which is what the resolution requires, is that there be land set aside, not necessarily to make the park, but land for future park development.
So then, Mr. Mayor,
Go ahead, Councilwoman.
so when do we get the budget for what Parks and Rec is doing? And can we respectfully request that there's a look at the South Happy and the North Happy for allocation of funds to actually build out said parks?
The Parks Department has what they call a playground replacement and new stuff, so they do that every year. I don't know exactly where this will fall. I don't think, quite frankly, they've even talked about what they could put there, to be honest. So
Are you talking about in the south, Joe?
in the north.
I'm
Are
talking
you
about
asking
both.
about the
I'm
south?
asking about
Yeah.
both south and north. I
And-
know the north one, it's a plan for a nano-nagel park, I believe. And that there might be some money for it already, question mark. But in the south, it'd be nice to know
There's no plan.
what the plan is, and that's what I'm saying, is like, we're gonna keep expanding the city, we have to tell our citizens, like, how is this gonna be a friendly place for you to live? And walking down a 55-mile-per-hour road to the school is not a friendly place to live, so I know my questions might frustrate some people, but we have to really think about what we're doing and why we're doing it, and if we're building this city for people to live here, it's gotta be livable. That's where I'm coming from.
Totally agree, and I don't think that anyone's annoyed. Raise your hand if you're annoyed by Councilwoman's
Justin was
questions.
really hoping.
See, I didn't
I
think
didn't
so.
know, I raised my hand just to be funny.
All right, then, we've got our motion, we've got our second. Any other questions as it relates to the approval of this TIF increment financing district? Jordan?
Councilmember Norvstrup.
Aye.
Langer.
Aye.
Reinbold.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Reif.
Aye.
Liebelt.
Aye.
Boberg.
Aye.
Ronayne.
Abstain.
Mayor Shoneman.
Aye, motion does carry. Next, we've got our review and approval of claims. We've got our bills for this week, May 15th. Take a motion to approve our bills.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion, Councilman Johnson, second, Ronayne. Jordan, would you give us our final roll call vote of the evening?
Councilmember Ronayne.
Aye.
Boberg.
Aye.
Liebelt.
Aye.
Reif.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Reinbold.
Aye.
Langer.
Aye.
Norvstrup.
Aye.
Mayor Shoneman.
Aye, motion does carry. Next, we've got our city manager's report. Joe, what have you got?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. You know, as city officials, we get the a magazine from the League of Cities, our municipal league, the South Dakota Municipal League. And this month, the president wrote about how many days there are, special days, and you hear them on the radio and TV a lot of today's this day and that day. And there's several of them related to city departments that have occurred here and are coming up. I just thought it was good to highlight it. May 4th was Firefighter Appreciation Day. This week is National Police Week. And the 21st through the 27th, the next week is National Public Works Week. So all of our staff are important. They all work hard. There's 275 full-time staff members. We're hitting our seasonal peak where we'll bring in that many more than that in seasonal. So there will be over 500 total city employees here over the next few months, and we appreciate all of them, and we need them all. And then kind of as a follow-up to the mayor's proclamation, if you want to say goodbye to Mary Campton in person, you can come by City Hall Thursday afternoon, I think starting at 3. Jordan, she is given 1 hour. You can come see her for 1 hour. If you know Mary, she's very precise and down to the point. So that's what she's done, and that's all I have.
All right, then, I would take a motion to adjourn this meeting.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Motion, Ronayne, second, Reinbold. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed,